I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well, Al-Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al-Qaeda members in the United States. But for the Homeland attack, that number is based on what Al-Qaeda is saying, so they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack, so the number is not off from what they did in the first round of attacks.
How old is this information?
I mean, it's ongoing. So the training's already done, right? So all the training info is now old because they trained all the Homeland attackers, if that makes sense. So like next week, you're not going to get info of a Homeland attacker probably at a terrorist camp because it's already done. So all this has been in the last year.
So it's been over a year. It's been a year.
Because this was a continuation. So they planned October 7th first, and then they rolled into planning this after.
Are we next, or is Europe next?
I think the embassy attacks are next, in my opinion.
What are they waiting for the embassies?
I don't think they're waiting. I think it took time to train them. They've now approved them, and they've now moved into the operational stage. So we first talked about what they call the invisible bomb. It was Al-Qaeda's in the Arab Peninsula, so their branch in Yemen, right? And they basically were showing off. It's really interesting. The video got taken down right away. And then I think most people in the U.S. didn't even see it. So like TSA completely ignored putting out the actual piece of the video that mattered. And so the big piece of the video was teaching terrorists how to make a bomb that goes through a magnetometer. So, you know, like most airports in the world, you don't have that weird hand scan thing. You just go through a random metal detector. So this bomb basically goes through the metal detector, okay? So they were showing it off then. Well, now Al-Qaeda's advanced and it's in a suicide vest. But the interesting part is it doesn't just go supposedly through the metal detector. They made it with components dogs aren't trained on to sniff. So if you say, okay, well, we'll up our security and put more dogs, Al-Qaeda's saying, well, we've defeated that too. And this is the type of vest they plan to use potentially in their Homeland attack that's coming up. So it's very concerning because we aren't prepared for that. I mean, most of the buildings you go into, even if they have some sort of thing, it already defeats that.
I mean, I don't think we're prepared for anything that's coming.
Right, we're not.
I mean, do we have any preparations at all? I mean, from what I've seen, we have no preparations. We're going to get into more about the funding of Taliban. I mean, we're funding our own demise here. I mean, have you seen any positives? Is anybody doing anything?
No, and actually, Al-Qaeda makes a joke out of the fact that they move the money we give to the Taliban to the camps that train the Homeland attackers, right? So it's almost like an insider joke, like, yes, we are forcing America to fund their own attacks. So that is the plan, too, that the money will go back to us and our government. And then that makes Americans also look at our government like it's an inside job. You knew it, right? And so Al-Qaeda is going to play that game, which is really interesting. Al-Qaeda found the Building 7 conspiracy stuff fascinating. And they have actually had discussions about how we could do ruses and bring in the Building 7 people to make them blame their government more. So they're actually even...
What about the U.S.?
So the U.S., from what we've seen, I told you about the camps, right? That there's the advanced urban warfare. So we think it's going to look like October 7th, but it's actually based on, and October 7th was probably also based on it. It's based on the Mumbai attacks that occurred 15 years ago.
What happened there? Before we dig into that.
Yeah, it was basically a terrorist group, Lashkar-e-Taiba. They did a number, it's called swarming attacks. They did a number of attacks in New Delhi, at a hotel, the Taj Mahal, I believe it was called, at like basically the train station, etc. The interesting thing about it, and this is why they're going to employ it now, is those terrorists were given kind of like latitude. One, they could change the location they were attacking, and they could change the modus operandi they were using. So, for example, when they went into the train station, it was supposed to be a bombing. When they got in there, they said, wow, we can kill more people just shooting them than putting the bomb together, and they shot them. Another thing that they did is in real time, information was being passed to them. So when they were in the Taj Mahal, they were being told what was on the press and what the police were doing, and they changed basically some of their movements in the hotel.
How many people, how many fighters do you think we can expect in each attack?
Well, the 1,000 is all of them. So we're calling it's an Al-Qaeda planned attack, but within those 1,000 terrorists, some of them are ISIS because they want ISIS to be blamed. I think the more of the fighter types are going to be ISIS because then if they're caught, then they talk, I'm ISIS. I think more of the suicide bombers are going to be Al-Qaeda.
I think these attacks will happen simultaneously throughout the United States, or will they be one day here, next day here, another one over here next week?
So they want them coordinated. I don't know if coordinated means all at the same time, or if coordinated means we do it Monday, we do it Tuesday, we do it Wednesday, we do it Thursday, we do it Friday, just do 5 straight days. So, but they want it coordinated.
What kind of places do you think they're going to target?
So this is what's complicated. So Al-Qaeda's preference, as you can imagine, is symbols of the U.S. or anything that causes economic damage, right? So Capitol is a great symbol. I feel like bridges or any kind of public transportation always matters because it puts costs against us and it causes fear. But here's where it gets complicated. So remember, the terrorists might have their goal is they're going to attack the metro in DC, right? But remember, some of these terrorists are going to be ISIS. And remember, they can change location. So the ISIS guy might go down the metro and say, there's not many people down here. I'll kill 20, but there's a event going on. I'm going to go up there, right? And because ISIS is a little different. ISIS just wants mass casualty. In my opinion, terrorists in general just leaving Afghanistan, a lot of them are coming up through the Darien Gap to the border. And there was a big push, right? Get in the U.S. while you can. Now, not all those Al-Qaeda's attackers, right? But they came in with fake Afghan passports. They came in with fake Syrian passports, fake Turkish passports. Those are the kind of the 3 preferences because they're easiest to get. And then, if our Border Patrol agents, a lot of them haven't been overseas, right? If an Egyptian shows up at the border with a Syrian passport, is he going to know that person was Egyptian? I mean, his passport says Syrian, right? Yeah. So we have that problem. But then Al-Qaeda wants to embarrass us again, like they did with the 9/11 attackers. And they've trained clean terrorists, right? From like Saudi, Kuwait, Jordan, etc. And they want them to get legitimate visas so we can't trust our system again. So we have both issues going on. A lot of these terrorists are coming up, right? And there still is the problem of lone wolves. There is the problem of we have terrorists in this country now where those members have never been in this country, right? We don't have any idea what their intent is. Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan is a great example, right? They've sent terrorists from Afghanistan region here. Why? Right? We have terrorists in this country that we don't even know their long-term plans against us because they're never really been a focus of ours, or we focused on them with this little piece where they did a few operations or training with Al-Qaeda, right? But we don't know the intent, and maybe they just are force multipliers for Al-Qaeda or the Islamic Army, but we lack the understanding.